Hey, Hannah's Hive, it's Dr. Maya here, and I'm thrilled to invite you to our newest series, Faith Fuel, sharing testimonies and igniting hope. In the spirit of my dear grandmother Mary, who always says, you don't have to do anything extra, just tell what God did. We're embracing the simplicity and power of storytelling in this series. Your testimony, your unique story, is a beacon of hope, and we're here to amplify its impact. So why Faith Fuel? Because we believe that within each testimony lies the power to fuel someone else's journey. There's an incredible strength in sharing what God has done in your life. This series is a testament to the fact that your story, no matter how seemingly small or ordinary, can be the exact fuel someone else needs to keep going, to overcome. So here's the purpose. We're creating a sacred space for you to share, connect, and inspire. And the benefits, they are boundless. Whether you're a storyteller or a listener, Faith Fuel is a source of encouragement, a reminder that even in the midst of life's challenges, God's grace is at work. So stay tuned and let the stories unfold. Hey everyone, welcome to the Hey Hannah podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Maya Fields, but to my friends and those who know me well, I'm just Maya. I'm a higher education administrator, a mother, and a wife of 14 amazing years. But above all, I'm a Christ follower. This podcast is a special platform created to honor the memory of my beloved daughter, Hannah. It's here that I have the chance to have the conversations that I never got to have with her, to share the wisdom and love I wish I could have passed on. It's a reminder to cherish the precious moments we're given and a testament to the power of healing, hope, and personal growth. If you're someone who's seeking personal growth, inspiration, and practical advice to build a solid foundation for a successful and fulfilling life, this is a place for you. Join me as we honor Hannah's memory together. Laugh, cry, and learn. Get ready for a podcast that is so much more than you could ever imagine. The Hey Hannah podcast, healing hearts, one conversation at a time. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Hey Hannah podcast. I appreciate you so much for tuning in, and I am thrilled to be bringing this Faith Fuel series. We have really been blessed so far with just the wonderful testimonies that have been shared. And we have another special guest today, Tracy Crump, who has so graciously agreed to join us and share her testimony with us. So Tracy, thank you so much for being here. Absolutely happy to have you.
Thank you, Mom. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. So Tracy, I will let you just go ahead and take it away.
Okay. All right. Well, my name is Tracy Crump, and this is my testimony about the blessings we receive when we trust and obey God. Now, I love that this podcast talks so much about parenting because faith and family are just at the top of my priority list. But I want to talk today about when those roles may be reversed. And we are called to care for the parents who cared for us. And so I'm going to tell two stories about my caregiving season, which a lot of you may one day find yourselves in. So the first story is about my mom when she first became ill. And my mom was just a very intelligent person. She worked in the banking industry for years. She loved to read. She could read a book a day. But we started noticing that her memory was going downhill. So we took her to a gerontologist who treats the diseases of old age. He did a very extensive memory test on her and said she had mild cognitive disorder, which he said may or may not develop into something else. So we went on for about a year and a half, when one summer she started going downhill very rapidly. Her memory was just getting worse and worse. But she also had some odd motor symptoms, like she would walk on the side of her foot, or she would lean to the side or lean forward and not even realize she was doing it. And she had some other symptoms too that just didn't go along with simple dementia. So I began taking her to doctors. And they did an MRI, which was essentially normal. Then they sent us to like an ear doctor thought it might be something in her ear, and they sent us here and sent us there. We eventually ended up at a neurologist. He did just a cursory memory test, and he said, she's got dementia. She's got Alzheimer's, just like that. It was just like, there's nothing else you can do. And I thought, I just knew in my heart something else was wrong. I just thought, no, this doesn't make sense. Well, all this time that we've been going to the doctors, I could not sleep. I tossed and turned all night. I thought, I know something else is wrong. I prayed. I said, Lord, please give me wisdom. What should we do? Where should we go? Please give me answers. And I would recite scripture all night, trying to fall asleep, and just, and I had worked as a nurse many years ago before we ever had children. And I kept thinking, I should be able to figure this out. I should be able to figure this out. I was trusting in my own wisdom, my own knowledge. And so this went on for weeks, and I was getting exhausted. And finally, one night, I said, Lord, I don't know anything else to do. I don't know where else to go. I don't know what else to do. And I said, Lord, I confessed, I've been playing God. I've been trying to do this all on my own. And I said, and I had turned it over to him many times, but how we're so good about taking it right back. We thought, oh no, I can do this. So I said, Lord, I'm done. I can't do anything else. And as I was falling asleep that night, a memory came back of a friend whose dad had similar symptoms. My mom had begun falling too, and other things. And I thought, now what was it he was diagnosed with? What was it he had? And 3 words came to mind, which will probably make no sense to you, but it was normal pressure hydrocephalus. And I thought, So the next morning I looked it up. She had all cardinal symptoms. I thought, So next time we went to the neurologist, I brought this up and I said, do you think she could have normal pressure hydrocephalus? And he said, no. And I said, why not? And he said, because the MRI doesn't show it. But I had done my research, and I knew that an MRI is not always definitive, that there was another special test they could do. And so I said, isn't that true? That the MRI is not always accurate. And so he kind of backed off, and he said, he said, but you'll have to go to a neurosurgeon and get the test done. And I said, okay. So we went to the neurosurgeon, and I was telling him everything we'd done and all that she'd been through. And I said, do you think she could have normal pressure hydrocephalus? And he said, no. And I thought, deja vu, we have been here before. And I said, okay, why not? And he said, again, because the MRI doesn't show it. And I said, so I brought up the test. I said, isn't it true that, we may have to do it? So finally, he kind of made me feel like I was a bad daughter for even asking, because it's not a pleasant test. They have to do a lumbar puncture, a spinal tap, and go back 3 days for scans, and it's not pleasant. But, he said, okay, we can do this. Well, to make a long story short, we got the test. She did have normal pressure hydrocephalus. And she was going downhill. I mean, so fast that she had lost the ability to speak. She could only respond like with 1 or 2 words to a question. She couldn't walk anymore. She had no memory whatsoever. She was literally on her way out. When she had, and normal pressure hydrocephalus, unlike dementia, is a treatable condition. So they put a shunt in, which drained the excess fluid, which was what was causing her symptoms. It was building up in her brain and pressing on her brain and causing all the symptoms. When they got that shunt in and drained that fluid, within 3 days, she made an amazing turnaround. She started making complete sentences. She could converse. She never fully regained her ability to walk, but her memory was so much better. We had my mom back, and we had her back for 3 more years after that. So I knew that God gave me that answer in the middle of the night. And it was all about trusting Him and His wisdom and not trusting in myself. So that's my first story. The second story is about my mother-in-law. A few years later, after both my parents had passed away, we moved my mother-in-law in with us. And she was 96 years old at the time, doing well. I mean, mentally, for her age, she was great. She was just having more and more trouble taking care of herself. Now, she had lived on her own for probably 60 years. Now, my husband's dad passed away when he was just 7 months old, and she never remarried. And so she had been on her own for many years, and moving in with us was not on her bucket list. She liked her independence. She didn't want to come move in with us, but we eventually convinced her to, and she did. So we had a little bit of adjustment to go through on both of we had been empty nesters for quite a while, about 10 years probably. And so it was an adjustment period for both of us. But we did okay, and she was doing well. She turned 97. Then, about before her 98th birthday, I started feeling that God was wanting me to give her a big birthday party. And I don't know about you, but hospitality is not my gift. I'll bake you a cake, I'll get you a present, take you out to eat. That's right up my alley. But a big party, no. And I kept thinking, wouldn't 100 be the time you would do with this big birthday bash? And so I just really didn't want to do this. I was really resistant. But I kept hearing this little jingle in my mind. At 98, don't make them wait. At 98, don't make them wait. So I thought, okay, if this is what I need to do, all right, I will. So I went to our pastor and asked if we could use their fellowship hall at church. She'd been coming to church with us, and they loved her. I mean, they absolutely loved her. She would go to Sunday school, and I had one lady who would write down things that she said. She said her name was Pharisee, which is a really unusual name. She said, these are my Phariseeisms. She said, I'm writing down all the wisdom that she is giving out from the last, 90 something years. So we were going to make it a surprise party. And so we talked to her Sunday school class and other people at church, invited them. We were going to, everybody it was going to be a potluck meal, and we got it all decorated. My son and his family from Atlanta were going to come down, and then we had another son and his family were here. And so we had it all set up and it was pouring down rain. I mean, just monsoon weather. But we brought her in, and she was so surprised. One of her ladies in the Sunday school class who loves to write songs, she wrote a song especially for her birthday and sang to her. And 3 other ladies sang her favorite hymn. So it was a wonderful day. She was exhausted afterwards, but she had so much fun. We had a little book where everybody could write a note to her, and she had me read that to her over and over. And so it was just wonderful. I kept wondering though, why 98? Wouldn't 100 be the time? Well, little did we know that a year later COVID would hit. And so we wouldn't be able to do anything. We couldn't do anything for her 99th birthday. We could not risk, getting out. People say they isolated, but we isolated. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't have anybody over. We just didn't feel like we could risk bringing something back to her. So 99 went by. I thought, but we all thought it's going to be over soon. This is not going to last. Well, by the next year, it still was bad enough that we could not risk it. So I kept saying, she said, couldn't we just go out to eat? I said, no, I'm sorry, we just can't do that. And I said, after this is all over, we'll do something special. Well, 12 days after she turned 100, she had a massive heart attack. And she survived that, but she grew weaker and weaker. We eventually put her on hospice. She lived 3.5 months after that. I didn't think she'd live a week. She was that weak. But she lived about 3.5 more months. In that 3.5 months, though, as we had hospice come in, it was so funny because she would witness to anybody who walked in the door. The chaplain said, he sang at her funeral later, But he said, I was blessed more by her than she was by me. So, it was a huge blessing that we had her as long as we did. But I was so thrilled that we had given her that big birthday party at 98, because we could not have done it. We couldn't do it at 99 or 100. So that is what happens when you obey God, even when it doesn't make sense. And it doesn't always make sense to us, because we're acting in our own wisdom and our own knowledge of the world. But that's what happens. Those are the things that happen when we trust and obey God.
Amen. Oh my goodness. I was just getting chills like listening to, both instances. It's just like God shows up in just the most particular ways. Like you said, those 3 words in the middle of the night, and, the party. And I know myself, like in my own naturalism, like 98 doesn't make sense. It's 100. It's 100.
Right.
This is the question I would want to ask you. Because a lot of times that moving in faith is a muscle you have to work out. And there are several individuals who can say, like, I heard something, I felt something, but I didn't follow through, but you did. And it paid off in those instances big time. What would you say, what type of advice would you give to someone who feels like they need more practice in moving when you have those promptings from God?
Yeah. Well, I would say there are many times that I didn't act on what I felt God was leading me to do. And it brings a lot of sorrow to your life when you don't. It does, when you could have done something, especially when he prompts you to do something for someone else that might lighten their day or bring them some relief in some way. So I think it helps to start with the little things, I guess I would say, like if he prompts you to call somebody and check on them. And I try to do that daily. When I'm praying, I have a long list of people I pray for. We have a prayer list from church, and then I add to it. And when I'm praying for someone, I have to think, I wonder how they're doing now. Well, I just text right then and say, how are you doing? How's this? How's that? And so I think just those little moments can lead you and condition you to respond to the bigger moments. And, it's not like he was calling me to go overseas and be a missionary or something. It was just, he was calling me to give a birthday party. And so I think those are the times that we need to basically practice up for the maybe big moments that he's calling us, big changes in our lives or things like that he may be calling us to do.
Absolutely. It's like get the small wins and kind of work your way up. You reminded me when you said that about the texting, when you immediately think of someone. My grandmother, who I mention a lot with the Faith Fuel series, she's the one who I have the quote by to kind of get this going with sharing a testimony. But she's the type of person, when you call and you talk to her, I'm like, I call her Mama. I'm like, hey, Mama, blah, blah, blah. You pray for this. And when you say, can you pray for something? It's like, next thing you know, Father, in the name of Jesus. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait.
But just met later.
Exactly. But she, I admire that about her. She just like goes into it. And, it's a matter of, I'm sure, just like getting in the practice, like you said, the small thing, kind of pushing yourself, like now's the time. But that's definitely in her character. Like if you ask her, if anybody calls up Mary and says, Mary, will you pray for me? She's about to pray right then. So be prepared.
I love that. I know I have friends like that too. And I've tried to do that. So it's one time we were in a little fast food restaurant, and a lady was just, I don't know why, the lady who was taking our order was telling us about some problems she was having. And I just suddenly said, can we pray for you right now? And right there in the middle of this fast food line, we prayed for her. And that just, it really warms your heart when you can do something like that and call on God immediately. And God hears us, hears you. And so I didn't know how she would respond, and I sure didn't know how the people behind us would respond. but yeah, that's wonderful that your grandmother does that.
Oh man, that's awesome. The people behind her were blessed too. Everybody was blessed by
I hope
um,
so.
by the blessing in the line. Well, Tracy, thank you so much for joining us. I so appreciate you sharing your testimony and just the many blessings that came about as a result of your obedience to the Lord. And it just reinforces, even for me, and hopefully for everyone that's listening, the importance, very, very important, to make sure that you are steadying yourself, slowing down enough to hear from God. We're so busy right now. We're in the holiday season, even more
Mm-hmm.
busy. But make sure that you're committing to steadying yourself enough to hear from God, and then also how important it is to follow through and be obedient to the promptings that He is giving you. So Tracy, thank you again. I so appreciate you joining us, and
Thank
everyone
you.
who's listening in. Until next time, take care.
And that's it. I'm out of here.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Hey Hannah podcast. We hope that you found inspiration, insight, and encouragement in our conversation today. If you enjoyed this episode and want to stay connected with us, be sure to like, subscribe, and review the Hey Hannah podcast. Your feedback helps us reach more people and spread our message of love and wisdom. You can also follow us on social media at Hey Hannah Podcast. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to stay updated on all the latest episodes, behind the scenes exclusives, and engaging content. And for those of you who prefer the visual experience, catch the video versions of our podcast on our YouTube channel. Just search Hey Hannah Podcast and hit that subscribe button to never miss an episode. For even more Hey Hannah goodness, visit our website at www.heyhannahpodcast.com. There you'll find updates, bonus content, and join a community that embraces you with open arms. Your continued support truly means the world to us. Together, let's spread love, share wisdom, and honor every precious moment. Because here at Hey Hannah, we believe that life is meant to be lived well. Remember, a new episode of the Hey Hannah podcast is released every Wednesday, so mark your calendars and be sure to tune in. Thank you again for being a part of Hannah's Hive. Until next time, take care.
Entertainment. Entertainment.